Hey, it's Alan here.
And Bre. And we are the hunter and the hippie.
Connected through yoga and bonded by our love of the wild places and the love for outdoors, we've come together to share our conversations about life.
Well, maybe more so what we've learned or are continuing to learn about life.
And there's no one way to do it. Life, that is.
And hopefully provide you with some teeny tiny bits of inspiration to connect deeper with yourself, others, and our great Mother Earth.
All right. Enough already about the podcast. Let's just get to the podcast. Hey.
Oh. Hey, Yogi.
It's Jellystone. That's what it is, not Yellowstone.
Jellystone? Well, I guess it's a play on Yellowstone, right? So.
Yeah, Jellystone. That's where Yogi the bear.
Yeah.
And Boo Boo would steal picnic baskets.
Yeah, I believe it.
So I was listening to I go through these like flows, right? Like where I don't because I listen to a lot of podcasts, but I also love music and I love to read, but I go through these times where I don't do any of it. I haven't picked up a book in probably a month. And I have not listened to a single podcast outside of ours. And just for proving purposes. And it's just because I feel like, you can only consume so much, especially if you're consuming nonfiction. You're consuming things that you're using to potentially make your life better, right? Because you can consume so much, but if you're not implementing it and you're not learning, from it or how to use the tools that you're getting, so I go through these phases. But anyway, I don't know how that's relevant because I just listened to the I started listening to. I'm like an hour into the Joe Rogan podcast with Quentin Tarantino. And he's for sure one of my favorite filmmakers in just the sense of his style and his humor, but hearing him, I don't know where the fuck I just lost my train of thought. Where was I going with this? Yogi Bear, Jellystone. What the fuck were we just talking about? This is how this is going to start. This is lovely. This is
just a dead end.
Yeah, this is a great way to start this episode. What was he saying? He said something, and it was really intriguing. Clearly,
so intriguing that you remembered it.
And I wanted to share. He's an interesting guy. That's for sure. I seriously don't remember what the fuck I was going to say.
All right. Cool. Sweet. Wait, so when you're not filling time with, so right now you're not consuming, what is you're not doing podcasts, you haven't picked up a book in a month. Are you listening to music or you're not even doing that? And then you are listening to music.
Yes.
That's what's...
now it goes to, I step away from... Because music is just music, right? And it's play, I pick music based on how I'm feeling. Or maybe it's both, right? Does music make you feel a certain way, or do you feel a certain way and pick the music based on that? But yeah, so right now, it's just a lot of music, and I go through these stints, especially so for, yoga class. I try to build playlists. Often I can't say I can't give you a schedule of how often I build a playlist for yoga, because sometimes I'll create a couple playlists in a row and use those, and sometimes I'll create a playlist and use it for 5 months, but then I go back and forth between playlists, or I'll take songs out and delete songs for yoga. But going through music, I'm always trying to hear, because I also play crazy music in my yoga classes. If you haven't been to one of my yoga classes, you'll get Tupac and Whitney Houston and you know, and you'll get spiritual chanting and everything. And so I'm just always trying to hear, you know, music for what it is, right? That's what I love about music too, is that it's universal in language, even if it's in a different language. And I still remember this. I was actually out hunting with a friend that I don't normally hunt with, and I was having this conversation with him, and he didn't get it. And like, he's like, if they're speaking a different language, how am I going to understand the music? And I pulled up a song that's in Spanish, and I played it for him, and he was like, and I was like, what is this song about? And he was able to tell me, and I'm like, you get it then. Like, you clearly, like he's like, yeah, I don't speak Spanish. I was like, yeah, it's a love song though, right? Like, it's about, you know, him going through heartbreak, and, you know, and it's very obvious, right? And you can tell by the tone of the music. So I'm always just, so even when I'm like consuming podcasts and books on tape and all of that, I'm still also trying to get music in. But I love Spotify because they, at the end of the year, they give you like all your facts or your results about like what you listen to, like who your most listened to band is. But they also, there's a fact of how many new artists you listen to throughout the year that like aren't normally on like your playlists. And I had like 400 and something new artists, and I was like, wow, that's fucking rad. Like, you know, and it's not like a goal. Like, I'm not like, oh, I need to hear new artists, new music, you know, but as I'm out there poking around, like, oh, I can't play Tupac during Shavasana. I guess I could. So I guess I can't use the word can't. I could play Tupac. It probably would not be very Shavasana-y to play some hardcore rap during Shavasana. But yeah, so like I'll poke around, and there's people I follow, like yogis I follow on Instagram, and they have public profiles on Spotify, and I go and I just search like their music and like what they're listening to. And I love, I'm totally a Spotify stalker. So I'm not like an Instagram stalker. I don't do that. But totally a Spotify stalker. So if I follow you on Instagram, there's the little bar on the, not on your phone. Maybe it's on your phone, but on desktop, there's like this thing, like what like who you're following, what they're listening to at that moment.
Oh.
Yeah. It's really cool. Should I share my screen?
You mean on Spotify, not Instagram?
Yeah, on Spotify.
Oh, you said on Instagram.
Sorry.
No, so I was like, what? They linked it to Spotify?
No, yeah, on Spotify, there's like this section of like who you're following.
Yeah.
And if they're active, if they're currently listening, it changes. Like, it's like Bre is listening to Whitney Houston right now, like, and it shows the song, and it'll also, but it lists like, you know, if you're not listening, it's like Bre listened to Tupac 5 hours ago.
Yeah.
This song. And so like I totally use that because I'm like, oh, like what? I love music, and I love all music, or mostly. It's funny. I used to say I love music, and but not country, but that's changed. I've actually gotten into a bit of country lately, and it's really cool because like you start again. There's a message, right? In music, there's always like a story, a message, and the stories in country music are actually pretty cool. And hearing them and hearing the way that they tell the story is really cool. And I try to incorporate that into yoga, and then just into my life, like how I'm feeling, and yeah, so it's not like I set this goal if I have to listen to like these new artists, but in just poking around and totally Spotify stalking people, it's great because you get exposed to like other, like what was it, the Supremes, Diana Ross and the Supremes, and one of my friends was listening to an album that they did where they covered music, which is like from that time frame, like what were they covering? And you know, it was just really cool to hear, like, they were covering, like, Sam Cooke. And so I ended up finding this album from the Supremes of, like, covers they did. And it was just really cool hearing their spin on badass songs from back in the 50s and the 60s. So I don't know where I'm going with this, but yeah, music's awesome. And I'll say this, not yesterday, today's Monday, Saturday, we went to our first music festival in over a year and a half.
Nice. Where did you go?
So we went to, it was down in Sculpture Park in downtown Denver. It was the Punk in Drublic Music Festival. So one of my favorite genres is punk music, ska punk music. And my favorite band was playing. So my favorite band is...
You have a favorite band of all time?
I do. So
that's like still your favorite.
Still.
Forever.
So, Yep. And so here it is. So I get it. Like, people ask me, like, what's your favorite band? And oftentimes my response is, it depends on my mood, right? Because, like, this is my favorite band, and I'll get to who it is, but this is my favorite band, but I absolutely have to be in the mood for it. Right? Like, I cannot, it's not like if I start hearing them and I'm like in a somber, like, type mood, and this comes on, I am going to be annoyed. Because it's ska punk music, right? It's trombones, saxophones, and it's very, like, fast paced and, you know, very upbeat style music. So hearing that, like, yes, I have a favorite band, and so I saw them. They were my very first concert.
Yeah.
When I was 14 years old, I saw them at this shithole venue. In Phoenix. It was called the Jackson Hole. It should have been called the Shithole. It was on Van Buren Street in downtown Phoenix. And downtown Phoenix, they've tried to, like, revitalize downtown Phoenix, except for Van Buren, but Van Buren's, like, where all the prostitutes are. And so, like, literally, like, they're just walking around.
Yeah.
Soliciting sex down there, and I'm 14 in, like, waiting in this line outside this literally decrepit building that we probably should not have been in, and we saw them there. My very first concert. They're Less Than Jake.
Oh yeah.
So you're familiar?
Yeah, I've been to their shows.
Yeah. Really?
Yeah, I was a ska punk kid.
So I saw them, and I heard their music before, right? Like, I knew who I was going to see, and then I saw them in person. I was like, wow, they are incredible performers. I've seen them now, including Saturday, 5 times. So I go see them whenever they're in town. And but it was just so cool. They asked, they weren't the headliner. NoFX was the headliner, which was another great, they put on a great performance as well. But Less Than Jake asked, they were like, how many of you, this is your first concert back, you know, from the pandemic world? And it was probably like 90% of the people raised their hand and like screaming, and it was just so cool. The energy. I'm an extrovert, and I thrive, like, in crowds and off of people, and, you know, so being there was just so cool, and seeing people just dancing and, like, having fun, and, you know, just letting go, letting loose, and just being in this environment where, you know, where we're supposed to be, right? We're supposed to be connected to other people. Like, that's humans. Like, we are supposed to be connected. And, it was really freaking cool, being back in live music, and it just, and now I'm, like, searching the interwebs of, like, who's coming to town, when can I see who.
Was the crowd predominantly, like, people our age? Like, it's
absolutely
reliving our, like, junior high and high school years.
100%. Because so you make a really, really funny point, and me and Jess talked about it, like, because it's great people watching. Like, a punk show is phenomenal people watching.
Yeah.
And it's not right. Like, and I'm not like, yeah, I'm like poking fun, but it's just like you see the guy, right, 40 something years old with his mohawk, purple mohawk. And he is like middle management IT company guy, right? Like, and it is. It's just right. Like we've evolved. It's not like a bad thing, right? Like there's no way like I'm saying like, oh wow, like look at this guy trying to relive his youth. He's tapping back into his youth, right? Like his days of punk and enjoying the music that he enjoys, and whether or not he has a mohawk on a normal basis, I highly doubt. But right, like just seeing.
But I wonder if like I just didn't notice. I'm trying to think. I was like, were there the old guy? Like we're now the old guys at shows, kind of like not super. Maybe we've got some years, but like I think about high school and junior high and going to those shows and like they're like the old people in the back.
Yeah.
Well, not really in the back, but like. And that's why I was like, oh, like, are we those people now? But are there no like young kids going to these shows of like going to Less Than Jake shows or No Effects shows? Or like also when we were going to those concerts when we were young, were there people in their like 40s at the shows and we just didn't realize it? And we just saw it as like our punk rock kind of generation.
Right. I don't, so what I can tell you, I can't speak to, because I don't recall the crowds like back when we were going, right, like in the high school days, but this crowd was predominantly middle-aged, right, like our age, right, like we're not old, but we're getting up there, let's be real, like, it was definitely, like, I looked around and like, oh yeah, that guy's like my age, but like there were definitely younger folks there.
Yeah.
But it's so funny listening to people. So a few things. One, there was a guy probably my age next to me who had his daughter who's probably like 7 or 8 at this show.
Yeah.
And like he had her up on like his shoulders and like they're just jamming out, and it's things like that. Like, so right, if you don't follow me on social media, and I don't know if I brought it up, but like my wife and I were trying to have a kid and we're going through adoption. But it's things like that when I see like fathers interacting with their children and parents interacting with their children, I'm like, yeah, like I can't wait for that. I can't wait to like have my kid on my shoulder at like a punk concert. And No Effects comes out, and there was a bunch of like little kids there, and right again, it's people our age that have kids. And No Effects comes out and he's talking to the crowd and he's like, who here is like a terrible parent? And someone up in the front had their daughter with them. The girl's name was Olivia, and he's just like, oh, this guy's a terrible parent. Like, how old is she? And she was like 7. And he's like, yeah. He's like, come on. He's like, you just brought your daughter to a punk rock show and my music. And then he proceeds to, and he's like, here, I'll make sure you're a terrible parent. And he proceeds to he's like, hey, Olivia, do you know what a chili dog is? And it is a terrible sexual reference. Like, and he explains it to her. I'm not going to explain it. Like, you're old enough to like look it up, use the Google. But it's gross. It's disgusting. But he tells it to this freaking 7-year-old kid. But like that's like what punk music is. And but yeah, there were so many ages there, but I would definitely say the majority are us in our age. And then it was funny to hear we had like probably like a 20-something, like low 20-something year old behind us, and she was so punk, and I'm saying that very facetiously, right? Like she was so punk rock. And everything that happened, she hated. Right? Like, No Effects. I don't even know why I'm here. I don't even like No Effects. And
you're like, yeah, then why are you here?
Right. Like, yeah, like, oh, sorry. Like, and that's the message, right? Like, oh, I get it. You're just so punk rock. Like, you're just too punk rock for punk rock. I get it. Like, yeah.
Or it's like, like what I don't even know I don't know current punk rock bands. Like the only punk rock I'll listen to now is stuff I used to listen to.
Right.
And I don't even listen to their new stuff. Like I think there's all these bands that have like new stuff and I'm like, no, I don't listen to those new albums. Like I listen to the stuff that I like when I go back and listen to Rancid, it's like Out Come the Wolves. Like I'm not like looking for the stuff I don't know. Like,
right. And even the bands acknowledge that. They, you know, Less Than Jake put out a new album in 2020, in December of 2020, and they're like, look, like we know you want to hear we know you want to hear Hello Rockview and Losing Streak. We get it. But this song is a banger. And they played it and it was awesome. But then they went back to, you know, their old shit, right? And you're right. Like I don't want to hear your new shit. Like, give me all the shit I listened to back in the day. Take me back to those times, those memories.
Was it good though, their new stuff? Like this new stuff they did play? Did you feel like it was like good, or you're like kind of like eh?
So the one song, they only played one song from their December album.
Yeah.
And it was good.
Okay.
It was really good. But I'm also biased. Like I really enjoy Less Than Jake's music.
Yeah.
Yeah, so it was good. I haven't listened to their whole album though,
yeah,
because I have that mentality of, yeah, no, I just want to hear what I know and they're good shit. All right, so let's play a game real quick.
Oh boy,
I know.
No.
So
I don't think
so you're not gonna have a favorite band, but what's your favorite band? Like,
I can't answer it.
All right, so we're gonna do one more thing. I love doing this one. So
like, no, I'm not doing it.
so this is like the way to figure out your favorite bands.
Okay.
Right. So all right, you're on a deserted island.
Yeah.
Right? Don't ask how you get there. Right. Like that doesn't matter. Just you're on a deserted island, and you have to bring 5 bands or artists. Right.
Oh yeah. I feel like I played this or something.
Yeah, so you don't, right, like it doesn't have to be an album. It just, right, if you pick, right, Less Than Jake, you get all of their music.
Okay.
Right, so if you pick, so I'll give you my second one. My second one's Billy Joel. Right, so if I pick Billy Joel, I get all of his music.
Okay.
So 5, right, most listened to, the ones that you can't live without, it's all the music you get for the rest of your life. Who is it?
Oh man. I don't know. The thing is, it's probably more of like people. It's just hard. I go in these phases where I literally listen to a whole album on repeat, like the entire album. So I like to. I'll find artists like where I can listen through a whole album without having to like want to skip ahead.
Yeah.
And then I like will have a phase, and then I'll find another album, and sometimes I'll like be rotating between 2. And I do listen to a lot of like radio, like I'm on iTunes or Apple Music instead of Spotify.
Okay.
Because I did the 3-month trial, and then it was the same price for non-commercials, and I already had like built up everything in my Apple Music, so I use that for like all my yoga stuff. But they have the same thing. You can just pick an artist or a song and create a station, and then like that's how you discover new music.
Yes. Yep.
But I go I'm very go through phases, you know.
Would you say it's based on how you're feeling? Like
no, because it's kind of like more long-term phases than like daily phases. I don't know. I think I also like don't listen to as much music as I used to. Because even though I know you're talking about like it's still to me consumption, and I don't want to fill like I think we've talked about this. I know I've talked about it just in general with people, but we don't have those like 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there where like nothing is being put into our brain. And I find that with music, if I have that always going in the background, like then my brain is still processing things because it brings up emotions, it brings up feelings, it changes things, it brings up memories.
And
so you're still working, Obviously there's certain music that is like legitimate, I think just like white noise-ish, but yeah. So I have like I grew up in music. I grew up playing piano. I played guitar. Our family, it was like a very important, my brother's a musician.
No shit.
So
well, I know your brother's a musician, but I didn't realize that.
It's like he does our intro song.
Shout out to Allison Band.
Yes.
For doing our intro music. I know your brother's a musician.
But I grew up like
I didn't realize you did too.
Yeah, I play piano.
That's so cool.
My parents put us in piano I was in piano at 3 years old.
Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to learn to play the piano. I just have never set aside the time to do it.
And at like 13, I was like, I don't want to play anymore. And they're like, you have to play an instrument. So I switched to guitar, and I did that for 2 years, and finally, or maybe like a year and a half, and they finally, at that point, I was like a year into high school, or 2 years into high school, and with like sports and stuff, I think it was just easier to say like, yeah, you can give it up now. But my brother I mean, we had 2 pianos. We used to like play together sometimes, and yeah, I
so
know
cool.
how to like read music. I was in music theory class.
Wow,
Yeah,
that's incredible.
So
my favorite musician, right? I can't say like second favorite, right? Like so less than Jake, Billy Joel, the Piano Man, right? Like I hear the piano and I'm just like, wow. You can, I've seen Billy Joel 6 times, and it's like magic, right? Like with your fingers, and it's amazing. I'm just like, you're doing what? Like how? And yeah, I hear it, and I'm like, holy shit, that's amazing. So that's so cool. I had no clue you.
Yeah, I have like a piano playlist on my iTunes because it's just. Yeah, it's incredible to hear that, and it's hard to find that. I think, I don't know, unless you know artists, it's like I want to listen to like piano music, but I don't really know any artists anymore.
Yeah. Or I want to listen to piano music that's not classical. Like, classical's great, right? Like, and there's times that I'll listen to it, but when you think a lot of times when you end up with piano music, it's in the classical genre. Unless you go to like Billy Joel, Elton John, right? Those are probably the 2 most modern style
times I don't want words, like that's the other part is like I do appreciate piano music without singing, but that's where it's hard. Like I can't even think because I'm probably right now I'm not necessarily like listening to my all-time favorites, but I'm on a big I'm I'm listening to a lot of camp right now. They just played at Red Rocks with Trampled by Turtles, and I was really sad that I didn't get to come down for it. But that's and then I have I've always loved classic rock and like oldies and funk, and like I'm definitely much more of a old school music, and even modern artists who have an old school vibe, like Leon Bridges for me he's just has that kind of soulful feel to him, and like Sharon Jones and the Dap Kings, which she actually, I saw her in concert where she had cancer and had stopped touring and making music, and then she had remission and went on tour, and then apparently like I hadn't kind of paid attention after that concert, but she ended up passing away, which was like such a bummer. But I was like, I'm so stoked I saw her on that kind of tour, because she's just like, it's like a 10-piece band.
That's so cool.
Yeah, but I noticed that, and then same thing with me with country. Like you would say I like everything but country, and I like country now. And it's hard to say what. I mean, there's so many genres and so many subsects of genres that I'm like, well, what is country and what is like folk? And there's crossover, like this could kind of be alternative folk or something, or I don't know. It's very complicated. So I just, when people are like, oh, what what kind of music is that band? I'm like, I don't know. Just music I
Yeah.
like.
My friend just told me about a new person, new band.
Okay.
Dominic, hold on. Dominic Fick.
Well, there's also album year ago, I discovered a Edward Sharpe and the Magnetic Zeros album that I like never heard. And the whole album is so awesome. And that was one of my like kicks of like listening. It was one I could listen all the way through. And I'm telling you, like, I probably in one drive I think I drove up to Hamilton, Montana, which is 6 hours. I listened to it on repeat at least 3 or 4 times. I did
That's
like rotate
awesome.
other ones in, but I had like just discovered, I was like, how have I not like heard of this album? But it came after their like whatever, their most famous one was the Home, the one that Home was on. And then I guess they kind of went off my radar, but I saw them live when I lived in New York. Which was super cool. Like, it's so funny. Like, I don't really go to shows anymore. And I grew up getting dropped off at Chain Reaction in Anaheim to, like, see the punk rock bands and went to, like, Warped Tour every summer. And I did
Oh my gosh, so
like,
many memories.
we were, like, bandies. We would, like, go and I collected drumsticks and, like, playlists and guitar picks, you know, and I, even in college, you know, like, I kept that going. And then at some point, I think it was, I hate to say it, but it was a like financial decision to kind of move away from going to shows. Because they're not cheap. And even though it's an awesome experience, like I also have like really great experiences just listening to music. And it doesn't like amp me as much, I think, as it used to.
Yeah.
I'm also like not one for crowds anymore. So that's probably... adds to it.
Yeah, it is definitely not cheap, especially depending on who you're going to see and how often you're going to shows.
Yeah.
And if you're not a crowd person, right, live music is, especially like punk, like we were just jam packed in, and you know there was like this section where some of the old people were standing at the show, like way back, and like people had their space, but
that would be me now. I am the old person in the back.
And my wife, she's not a crowd person, but when I'm at like these concerts, like I want to be in the crowd.
Yeah.
Like I'm not in the mosh pit. I'm way too old for that shit, but like I want to be like in the crowd. And I'm like, come on, let's go. She's like, where are we going? I'm like, up there. Like we're squeezing in. And yeah, it's so great to just like be in that energy, like people just dancing and it's incredible. Like looking put next to the person next to you and they're smiling and singing along. And
I'm not a germaphobe, but I don't want someone's like sweaty, like skin disease being rubbed up on me.
I do jujitsu. All of those fears have gone out the window for me.
Yeah, but you know, kind of like, I don't know. I mean, I used to be in the mosh pit. I used to crowd surf.
Yeah.
I like did it all. And
we need to find some old pictures of us from high school, because I need to see you in high school. A good photo.
I'd say junior high, I dressed in more punk rock, and then high school I like wasn't so much dressed that way. You know, trying to be cool and all, trying to blend between the tribes.
I gotta see it.
I was like not as cool in junior. I've never been that cool, but
I was never cool.
Yeah.
Period. Like
I was never cool. I just like was part of different tribes, and I felt like in junior high I was like just embraced my punk rockness, and then in high school I kind of
you're too cool for punk rock.
Not too cool, but just like didn't dress so punk rock.
Got it.
I was the water polo surfer look.
Okay.
Water polo beach look, but
it was fun. We listened to like everything. I've always listened to everything except country, right? And then I got into that later in life. But in high school, we were big. This was when raves were still underground, and like, yeah, like I mean, you're familiar. You're from that time, right? Like we were big ravers. Like I used to have like candy, right? The beaded bracelets. Oh my gosh. Like stacks of them on my wrists. I had like bleach blonde hair. It was, yeah, and this is before cell phones. You know, you're trying to find location of raves, and
you could get away with it because
right
couldn't
you couldn't track you.
You didn't have to answer a phone in the middle of a rave.
Right. They didn't have dumb, like these kids who fucking record everything that they do. Like, you guys are dumb. Stop it. Quit recording all your stupid shit. Right. Like, it's not that we didn't do stupid shit. It's that we don't have video of us doing stupid shit. Right. Like, that's the difference.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's music's cool. So, all right.
Well, what was I gonna? Oh shoot, I forgot what I was gonna say something, and my one big. We were really into our water polo. Like pregame was some Dr. Dre, DMX, Nas. Right. Like so funny to be just like so not what you would think, but that's what I think it's just fascinating to see that like contrast too of, I guess it's I mean it's not so far from punk and just like the energy vibe, but then we got like, and then you got the jam band, like it kind of covered all the grounds in Southern California.
And that's cool because you were like Southern California. That was like the birthplace of a lot of punk.
Gwen Stefani went to a high school like in Anna, like right the town over. The drummer of Sublime lived, of Offspring. The drummer of Offspring lived like in our town. Mm-hmm. And then like just
Sublime
a whole
is
bunch
Long Beach, and I mean you had it all. Like I mean, it's incredible. Like growing up in that time frame. Yeah. Probably even a little earlier would have been even wilder, but yeah, it's wild.
I saw Jack Johnson at a record store on a stage built of like maybe like 3 feet tall, just like plywood built stage in the corner of a record store. Yeah. Like
that's wild.
Yeah. So no more than like what a record store could hold. And he was just played acoustic. And
was this before he was Jack Johnson or like
he was I mean we knew of him, so, and he's from Hawaii, so it's not like he was a local, but it was probably before though, because sometime around that period we went down to San Diego and we saw, this actually might have been one of the best lineups ever. Ben Harper was headlining, Jack Johnson, and then Jurassic 5.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I love Jurassic 5.
Yeah.
I saw Jurassic 5 at a rave in like when was it? 1998?
Okay.
And I was like, because I grew up in New York City, a lot of East Coast hip hop, and and I love A Tribe Called Quest.
Yeah.
And when I heard Jurassic 5, I was like, what? Like, who are these guys? Like, what? Like, because it has it's like a very, I haven't listened to them in forever. I need to search them on Spotify. But they have a very Tribe Called Quest like sound, as well as their like live their presence, right? Because it's
entertain, like
they're entertaining. There's multiple members, right? Like they're switching off. But yeah, that'd be a great lineup.
Oh,
that'd be incredible.
Okay, here's a good debate. What is the difference between hip hop and rap?
Oh man,
someone asked me that like a couple months ago, and I just, now it's like kind of a cool question to hear people's perspective on.
Yeah, I think I've always thought about this question, and I have an answer, and I think that there's I think really you can classify either as either, right? Like ultimately, like you could just say like, oh yeah, it's rap, it's hip hop,
Wait, would you say DMX is hip hop?
No, DMX is rap.
Yeah.
Right, but he has party anthems, and those are hip hop.
Okay.
And so, like, I feel like hip hop is that upbeat rap, like that like makes you want to like jump and those the party anthems. A lot of Tribe Called Quest to me is like hip hop.
Yeah.
But like Wu-Tang is rap.
Yeah.
And like more of that like hardcore, like Nas is rap. Biggie is rap. So I think that.
But see, I would almost say like Biggie's got some hip hop.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
Like.
Yeah, I don't know. Again, I think that they're probably interchangeable in the sense of like it's right, like in just calling it like whatever, right? Like it is versus like trying to put like a nomenclature on it. Mm-hmm. But I definitely, I always feel like hip hop. It's in the word, right? Like hip hop, like it's like Naughty by Nature, right? Mm-hmm. Like that's like hip hop. That's it makes you want to move.
Yeah.
It doesn't make you want to like gangster lean. Like
yeah.
Right? Like NWA is rap.
Okay.
I don't know. What are your thoughts?
I don't know. It's hard. Yeah. I guess it's a feeling almost. Like I feel like because I think there's artists who have both, right? Within an album, and are they
Yep.
It's hard to kind of narrow it down, and I can't remember what I said at the time, and like then someone questioned it and I was like, yeah, like I guess that's not so true. It's really hard, I feel like, to pin it down because it's almost just like a type of energy that you feel from it.
Well, it's like right, I think you make a great point. I think that you can embody both, right? Mm-hmm. And I think it's probably dependent on the song. And it makes me think of like rock music. You have rock music, but then you have like ballads, mm-hmm. right? And like, well, not all rock music is ballads, mm-hmm. but when you hear a ballad, a ballad. Like, it's that I don't want to say depressing, right? But it's like that slower, like that love story rock music type thing, right? And so you have rock musicians who have their ballads, but they also have their rock music. So
yeah, would you almost say like rap is the general category, and within rap you have
there's
subcategories, kind of like rock. Like rock is
probably
kind of crazy to how much it encompasses.
Yeah, because you have alternative rock, you have the indie rock, but you know what? I think that. And I think this is something that we struggle with in our generation is that, growing up, you had these genres and it was very like, it was very diversified, right? Like, here's this, right? Like, and now you have so many
genres.
People. Well, you have so many genres, but you have so many people in all of the genres. Like, There's a new Travis or maybe it's not new. I don't even know when it came out, but there's a new Travis Barker song that I heard called "Let's Go," but it has Little John in it and Busta Rhymes but when you think of Travis Barker, right, Blink 182 and like rock, like so music, and I think you made a comment earlier, right? Like you also the people used to match the music too, where now I was watching the UFC fight and I saw I don't know, I think it's Kourtney Kardashian, I don't know, but she's dating Travis Barker, and to me that's like one of these things is not like the other, right? But they've done, the generation after ours has done such a good job of just like bringing it all together.
Yeah.
As we should. Right? Like there's nothing wrong with Kourtney and Travis Barker. It's just where the way we grew up, it was like you had your skaters and you had your like your pretty boys.
Yeah.
Right? And those two weren't together.
Yeah.
Right? But now and this relates to music too, right? Like it's you have like the tattooed pretty boys who love punk rock music, and the jocks are out there with like their crazy hair and their gauged ears, where like when we were in high school, gauged ears and tattoos was very much like a punk rock motorcycle club thing. So I feel like music has done the same, where it's been just like mushed together.
Yeah.
And you have Nelly, right? This was happened a while ago. Nelly and Tim McGraw did that song over and over again. Right? Like you have rap and hip hop or rap and country music. And
dude, Wyclef, man, he was one of the first to do that.
Yeah, with Kenny Rogers.
Yeah.
Yep.
Dude, that album, oh my gosh, that was a class. That was one we would like pull over and like dance on top of the car when certain songs came on. Like,
yes.
No, I think it's cool. I mean, it is like, it's almost like there's so many, it's almost like, let's just get rid of genres. Like why and maybe that, but it's our tendency to label things, right? Like coming from a philosophical standpoint, like we have so much wrapped up in like labeling and identifying with it, that like maybe music is the way that we start to just like move away from that, right? Like why can't, like, can we as like a society take lessons from this? Like why can't rap be blended with country music? And I don't know.
And I had a thought. What was it? Shit. I just lost that thought. I don't remember. But yeah, that was a really good point that I wanted to make on top of what you were just saying with like with the labels. That's what it is. So like we want to, like when you tell me, when you're like, oh, what, go listen to this new band, I'm not immediately going to go do that. Well, I might, but for me, the first questions I'm going to ask, what's their sound? What kind of
music is it? Yeah.
Yeah. Like I don't necessarily go genre, but what's their sound? Like I don't want you to tell me, but oftentimes I get, they're hip hop. They're rock. But what I want to know is who are they related to? Like, there's
but
this
here's
band.
The thing that I have to say, like when you were saying the universal language of music, like I understand that to a certain degree, but I also think music is so personal, right? And so like every single person's experience with the same song is incredibly different. Yes.
But if the Red Hot Chili Peppers have a sound, right? So like if you say Red Hot Chili Peppers, like you hear it in your head, their music. And my buddy told me about this band, Dial 7, and he's like, oh, you should go listen to them. And he didn't tell me like what they were. I just pulled them up, listened to them, and I was like, oh, they're like Red Hot Chili Peppers, mixed with like Sublime.
Yeah.
And, so yeah, it's a personal experience, but like knowing their sound to me. And so my friend literally today, this just happened this morning, she was like, have you heard of Dominic Fike? And I was like, nope. I was like, is this a comedian? And she's like, no, it's an artist. And I just pulled up Spotify. I was already listening to music. I pulled up Spotify, put on a song, and her favorite band is 21 Pilots. And the very first song I played, I was like, oh, I totally see why you like them.
Yeah.
Why you like this guy, because he sounds exactly like 21 Pilots. But so I just let it play. I just let Dominic Fike's music play, and it started getting into rap and hip hop and I'm like, whoa, this is cool. And again, it's like, well, what kind of music? It's funny when you look them up, it's just like music. It just says musician. It doesn't say alternative rock musician. It doesn't say indie rock. It doesn't say rapper. It says just musician. And I was like, oh, that's cool. Like, yeah, why can't we just be musicians?
Because we're afraid of trying new things. Like,
we're
like, oh gosh, like, I don't want to listen to it if I might not like. What's a couple minutes, And it's just like we're so.
Or there's I can't listen to this because of this type of music. So my number 3. So we have 1, Less Than Jake. 2, Billy Joel. My number 3, Justin Timberlake, including NSYNC.
Okay. Are you
And
allowed to
so,
do
like,
that? I feel like you're stretching the rules there.
Maybe. But but that's the thing is, I think there's people that are like, oh, I can't listen to that because that's like boy band.
Yeah.
Fuck no, like I'll rock out to some Bye Bye Bye. Like, oh yeah, like.
Saw him at Madison Square Garden.
Yeah, like, that's the thing about music is like there's so like everyone has that different experience with it. And when you see growth like Justin Timberlake, that's the really cool thing about Justin Timberlake is he's one of those ones I do appreciate his new music because you don't know what he's going to put out. Right? Like you look at like NSYNC and that's boy band, and then you look at Justified, right, which was his first solo label, and that was like poppy, right? Like he was like trying to get away from boy band, but it was like he had this label, this box that everyone put him in. And right, and like that's what Justified was, and then you have what was it, Future Sex Love Sound. Yes, I can probably name all of Justin Timberlake's albums.
That's I think the show I went to is when he toured for that.
Future Sex Love Sound, yeah, it's a great album, but totally different music. Then you have 2020, which was 2 albums, right, released at different times, 2 different types of music, right. He was a very like jazz focused one album, like jazzy funk music. And then his last album was Man of the Woods, and that, like the first time I listened to it, I'm like, I went down the path of I can't listen to this. This is terrible. This isn't Justin Timberlake. But then I was like, I noticed like I was doing. I was like, no, that's who he is. Like, he hasn't had an album that's been the same.
Yeah.
And now he went so far out of what he's used to that it's just so different. But when you hear it, like him teaming up with Chris Stapleton, you're like, wow. And then when you hear, so I'm a huge Justin Timberlake fan. I would totally, yeah, he's awesome. I have his book and everything. So in Man of the Woods album, you hear there's a lot of tracks of Jessica Biel just talking, not singing. So his wife just talking because he loves his wife's voice, and he recorded her without her knowing, and actually put it in the album. Yeah. So just really just cool. So I went to see Justin Timberlake real quick. I went to see Justin Timberlake after his Man of the Woods tour, during his Man of the Woods tour. Went by myself, front row. I was like a little girl. Like I was so happy. He was probably like 20 feet from me. Yeah, it was incredible.
Is that?
All right,
that's
so,
the end of the story.
That's it. That's the end of the story.
Okay.
That's
waiting for more.
So all right, I've given you 3 bands. We got to hear some of yours.
Oh.
Like come on, you got it. Like it's hard, but you gotta choose 5 bands. You can never listen to another artist again. It is these 5, any and all of their music included, including their boy band phases.
Oh gosh, no, you got to finish yours. I got to think. I just don't have a good memory.
Would Jack Johnson be one of them? No. All right.
I mean, I think I could listen to his stuff for a long time. Like it's easy listening.
Yeah.
God, like, I don't know.
What's funny for me is my 5 haven't changed in over a decade.
Yeah. I've been asked this question and I'm like trying to remember like who did I say? I probably said like Bob Marley just to like have something chill to go on. Yeah.
Yep.
Oh. You gotta finish yours because I have to think. I'm gonna pull up my iTunes.
All right.
See if it sparks anything.
So number 4, right? And these are in no order, right? It's just I feel like I cover the gamut and I get to choose whatever I want from these.
Yeah.
So my number 4 is Queen.
Okay.
Right? And Queen to me is like the epitome of what music should be. Because just like Justin Timberlake, Queen gave you everything.
Yeah.
Queen gave you rock. Queen, right? Rap didn't exist, but I truly believe if like Queen, if Freddie Mercury was still alive and like, he would have an aspect of rap to his music. Like he gave you opera, he gave you classical, he gave you rock. He gave you music for everyone.
Yeah.
And that was just so incredible. And growing up, so I have a lot of memories tied to Queen from being a really small kid, probably like 6, 7, 8.
Yeah.
Growing up, spending time with my uncle, who was a huge Queen fan, and his friends. So just hearing that music, it just brings up so many memories.
So that's 4.
And then 4, and then 5, New York hip hop, New York rap, Biggie.
Okay.
You gotta have some Biggie. And he's one of those, there's always the debate of like East Coast versus West Coast hip hop, especially when we were growing up, right? Like that was like the Tupac versus Biggie, right? Or, the Who Shot Ya. And for me, Tupac's great. I love Tupac, but I can't put on a Tupac album and listen.
Yeah.
From start to finish. With Biggie, it is 100%. I can start any one of his albums from the beginning and listen to it all the way through, and not like, I want to change this. But yeah, hear it right from start to end. So yeah, so we have Less Than Jake, Billy Joel, Justin Timberlake, Queen, and Biggie.
Okay. I might say like Otis Redding. I would do.
That's a good one.
Yeah. See, this is the hard thing is like I like to just like put those radio stations on, and so like I like the whole range that comes like with that. Otis Redding. I gotta get some type of like rap or hip hop in there. Like, I don't know. There's a part of me that would almost say like Jay-Z.
Okay.
Or
Jay-Z's good.
Or like I recently like went back and listened to some songs that were like again from high school, and I was like, man, this is so good.
Yeah.
Or even Kanye, to be honest. Like I don't know.
Kanye's talented.
Yeah. And
like,
he's got a range in there that like.
Yeah.
So maybe that would be it. Maybe Kanye is one of them, which I kind of hate saying. Lives right down the street from me.
Right. That's the thing is like we get into these labels and, I don't want to listen to a boy band. I don't want to listen I don't want to be the Kanye supporter.
Yeah. But I could listen to his album. I mean, there's multiple albums that like listen right through. Well, maybe some of them I skip through because they're like, got those weird like interludes, but he's super talented. If I could, if you're saying you can get the whole if Wyclef
you get everyone.
If Wyclef met the
Fugees, yeah, you get all of it. You get Wyclef and the Fugees, but with Kanye you also get who was it?
Well, he's
Dilated Peoples.
Okay.
He was part of Dilated Peoples.
Okay.
Before, like that's how like the folks in Dilated Peoples was like, oh shit, this Kanye guy.
Yeah.
And they brought him in, and he was doing a little bit with them, and then they were like, yeah, this guy's amazing.
All right. Well, maybe that.
So,
Otis Redding, Kanye.
Fuji/Wyclef?
No, because I feel like I'm giving my rap.
Right.
Maybe that's on the back burner. I'm giving my kind of. Yeah, I don't know. Like I want to get in that. Like, it's funny. I used to listen to a lot of like CCR and like Leonard Skinner, but like I wouldn't want to pick one of them if that was like the only thing, or maybe I just dash them in there. Oh, let's do Neil Young, because that would include Crosby, Stills, Nash and Young.
Yes. Yep.
Maybe.
All right. So what are we at? 3?
3.
We got 2 more. What's really funny is how hard this is, and if you're listening, I want you to do this exercise and send it to us, right? Like either email, Instagram, Facebook, whatever. Reach out, text us, whatever. But it is really hard. And when I think about, I'm giving you time to think here, because when I think about music, like there's so many more that I'm like, shit, like, should I replace that? Like DMX, It's Dark in Hell is Hot album.
Mm-hmm.
For me, like growing up, that was, I can listen to that song literally from the very first second it starts to the very end. His prayer skits, like his interludes, all of it. Amazing album. But he doesn't make the list because I don't want all of his music.
Yeah.
Right? Like he has some good music, he has some good party anthems, but there was, right, that one album for me was just awesome. And then I think about like the CCRs and, Leonard Skinner,
Yeah. Well, it's like a couple songs. Like that's the thing is like there's a lot that I wouldn't, like I want that vibe, but I don't want their album. I want the people who are in that kind of
right, that radio.
Yeah, I want that radio station.
Yeah,
and that's even like even bands that are new to me now. Like I don't know their other albums necessarily. Like I know a couple of their albums. I don't know if I like what they produced before. It's.
And for me, like my father was a big Motown listener. And I love Motown. So like I don't have any Motown really in my I don't have any Motown in my top 5, and it's like shit, how do I get Motown? But it's so tough because you just want to hear it all. Like when you really listen to music, it's just there's so much that if I just pick these 5, I'm missing out on so much more. But yeah, I feel like you gotta finish it off. You got 2 more.
Well, then I would like pick piano. I just don't know a pianist.
So, but like no vocals. You just want like piano music.
Yeah, I would be down with that.
All right, I'll give you that.
Okay.
I'll give you that. I'll give you that. Piano radio.
Piano radio. Because you need that. I guess I can still have quiet time. Like it's not like I have to listen to music.
Right.
But there's something so like emotional. Like I had a few years ago, I was in a place emotionally, and literally I turned on this song by, I think it's Opus Orange, and it's a piano song. And there's just something that I feel with it. And I literally put it on and put my hand like on my heart and just cried. And afterwards I just felt so good. And it was like this very much like integration, like cathartic need that only could come from like this song or this style,
Yeah, that's cool.
So that's where like I feel music, like you were asking what comes first, how you feel, and then the music you listen to, or vice versa. And I think it goes both ways. I think you can pull yourself into a new place using music, right? You can also feed what you're in using music. Like I drive faster with certain music, like, and you're aware of that. Like it does kind of instigate behavior. Which I think is super fascinating, and just even our memory associations, right? Because then that's the other part of purely for the music. But so if I pick my last bands, like is it purely for the music, or there's these memory associations that are like driving me towards it? Like I have a crazy memory association with, in Fight Club, how at the end when the city is burning down, like crumbling, and Pixies were playing Where Is My Mind? So September 11th, I had 0 period civics class, and I got there early. Like I got up, like ate a banana, didn't turn like radio on or anything, walked, and we always watched.
Where were you, in California or in New York?
California, senior year of high school. And we always would watch, I think, the news for the first 10 minutes of class, or like I can't remember specifically, but I get there early. I'm the first one who walks in, and I'm sitting down, and the news is on, and I'm seeing this, and it's the first I'm hearing about it because I didn't have anything, like literally rolled out of bed.
You didn't have smartphones.
Yeah, and it was
you didn't have
zero. Like I had CDs in my car that I listened to, and like my parents, we didn't have TV on in the mornings when we got ready, and with zero period, I think it started at like 7 a.m. or maybe it was 8. I can't remember. Maybe it was maybe normal school started at 9, and so zero period was 8 or whatever. It doesn't matter. So I walk in, and then I see the second plane crash into the building. And then once it starts crumbling, that song, Where's My Mind by the Pixies, plays. And it's this like mental association with something. Now it's tied to that forever. Which was, but it's weird. Like just the movie created it. Like that song played, and it was such like a powerful accompaniment to like the scene, right? Like think about that. No words in that scene were spoken. He's looking out at the crumbling city and that song. And it's just like, you know?
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, like that's where like I can't choose because it's like, because for me, music is all about a feeling. It's like a feeling that's created. And so like, what feeling do I want on this island? I don't know.
That's the beautiful thing about music is that it's a feeling. It's, you know, how do you want to feel or how are you feeling, right? And there's music for that.
Yeah.
And that's like, that is what makes it beautiful. And what's crazy is when I've met people who are like, oh, yeah, no, I don't listen to music. And I'm like, huh? Like, to me, it doesn't compute. Like, that's like the one thing that you have tied to, like, right, there's that memory, but there's so many other memories. Like, you hear a song and you're like, oh, I remember that. Or, oh, it takes me back to, my high school days of like driving around with friends, or, right. Oh, there was, during my early 20s, like, oh, I hear Little John and I think about the clubs, when I was, 21, and, so there's just, it fuels your mind of like, oh, wow, like remember those days.
Yeah. But I see that's what's hard for me is I work so much with like disassociation type of stuff, right? Like let's remove these, like let's just actually like see things as they are. And fascinating enough, like they're like Camp actually feels like home, that album. I had a very, like in this last year, there was a period where I was listening to a lot and I was in a very emotional place. And the nice thing is I've been able to, maybe it's just my relationship with that emotional place, but like the thing is like that could get tied to there, but then like being able to disassociate it and then like just actually have it be a different experience for me. And like, I don't know, it's, so that's kind of like, I digress a bit, but I think there's a natural, our brains create memories, right? And there's more senses evolved in a memory, the more that memory will stick with you. I had a psychology teacher in high school who had us remember Paco Bell Canon and D. And the way he had us remember was like, we'd listen to the song and then we'd have a visual of this guy, Taco Bell, like pulling a cannon and D shooting. Like, I don't know, and so there's, I don't know. It's just, the brain is fascinating. I guess that's where I digress to, but
yes.
all that to say, I don't have the last two. I'm only going to take 3 bands with me.
All right. You're only taking 3 bands. That's all you get. That's fine.
I don't know.
But you get no more music.
Well, 4. I have the piano
that was your decision.
Station.
Oh, you have the piano.
Wait, who were they then?
No. You had...
Otis Redding.
You had... you didn't have the Fugees.
I picked Kanye.
Kanye and the piano music. So you get 3.
Yeah.
Sure you don't want to throw the Fugees in there?
No.
Lauren, because that, you know what? If you pick the Fugees, right? Don't pick Wyclef.
Pick the Fugees and I get Lauryn Hill and...
Oh, Hill, yes, and
okay,
Wyclef.
I'll put the Fugees in there.
All right,
all right.
Because Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill, one of my favorite albums of all time. It's incredible.
But I don't feel like there's a lot of albums in that choice. Oh well. Okay, I'm doing it.
There aren't. You get the score.
Yeah.
Right, which was Fugees. That was their only album, right?
Ready? Is that the one with Ready or Not?
Yeah, Ready or Not. Yeah, I'm pretty sure that covered all of them. And then you have Lauryn Hill's Miseducation of Lauryn Hill. You have.
The Fugees had a different one. They had an old one, a bootleg album
before the score.
Yeah, that one was a good album.
Got it.
But a lot of songs I think made it onto the score.
Got it. All right. So before we wrap, we're gonna do unpopular opinion music.
Okay.
All right. So I'll go. Unpopular opinion. I cannot stand Led Zeppelin.
Oh.
I fucking hate them. I can't stand it.
Wow.
Like I hear the music and I'm just like I don't hear what everyone else is hearing.
Oh, I like Led Zeppelin.
Like
maybe that's my fifth music band.
Like I hear and I'm probably gonna catch so much shit for this. Like I can't. Like Stairway to Heaven, nope, does nothing for me. And yeah, for me, Led Zeppelin, I'm just like, nope, nothing at all. So, unpopular opinion, go.
Oh, I don't. I'm a lover. I love everything. I don't like, who was the girl? I don't watch TV. I don't own a TV. What was the award ceremony recently? And the woman performed, and there was a lot of controversy.
Megan Thee Stallion.
No.
Cardi B.
Don't like her. No, I just don't. I don't need that. I don't want children seeing that. If that's going to be on like public television, no thanks. Let's. Yeah, I don't know. It's hard. You know, you're talking about like the punk rock show, right? And this like, I mean, that's the parents' choice to bring them and let them.
That was the parents' choice. It wasn't on public TV. Like
it's just
the parents brought them, and you know what you're getting into. Like if something like that happens, that's your fault.
And I just like find like where is the line between like you're a public figure, let's be like role models for our youth and our future, like even with pop stars and things like that. Like it's just unfortunate that like that's our youth's example of like what to be, what to grow up into. And I think that is maybe my gripe with the music industry is it's become this, and this is a generalization, but like, and it happens in other industries, but I just wish there was more of a push to just be good people. Like sports stars and you know, but media wants the drama, media seeks it out, and so then these influencers create the drama because that's what gets them paid, and like the whole system to me is just out of whack. I'm gonna go live off the grid somewhere and raise my children to hate me because they're never gonna be exposed to things. What's that? Mr. Captain Wonderful or Captain something. It's a movie, and he has like this. It's this husband and wife. The wife ends up passing away of cancer, or maybe she committed suicide. I can't remember. But they live out in
the middle of nowhere. I know what you're talking. Yeah, I know what you're talking about. And like he like wants her. You know what? There was. I know what you're talking about. I don't know it. I can't think of the name, but there's this new show on Netflix where it starts out very similar, like this like father trying to like keep the world.
Well, I don't think he was like
daughters.
keeping.
It's called Sweet Tooth.
Okay, I don't feel like he was keeping the world. I think he was exposing them to a world that they're not exposed to. You know, the way they were teaching he was teaching it. Both of them were teaching the kids. It was like, I mean, they were super book smart. They were super wilderness smart, like savvy. Like they could survive. They were healthy. knew the Declaration of Independence, like things that like kids in like their cousins didn't know, you know?
Right.
But
what's that line of pop culture, like where pop culture, you know, is important? So this is one of the things that Quentin Tarantino talked about, and we need to wrap up here soon, but Quentin Tarantino talks about, you know, what makes his movies so good is that, like, you know, they're, you know, like Pulp Fiction, for example, they're sitting there, you know, they're two hitmen, and then they start talking about an episode of I Love Lucy. Mm-hmm. Right. And it's just that, you know, so, and that's like a standard conversation, mm-hmm. right? It's not forced. It's like the time that you grew up in. And so where does pop culture, music included, you know, what's the line? Like, what are you supposed to, you know, and this is a strong word, but like, are you alienating your kids by not allowing them to listen to a specific style of music that other kids their age are listening to, or TV, you know, and then how do you find other kids that are similar, right? That they can not feel like an outcast, mm-hmm. You know, to be friends with. Like, oh, you don't know this musician, or you don't know that, or you don't watch this TV show. How does that make a child feel, you know, when they're dealing with bullying and peer pressure and
all of that's made it all worse.
Yeah.
You know, and that's,
yeah.
I don't know. I think they're gonna get exposed to things regardless, right? Mm-hmm. Like we've talked about the screens, right? So like if I don't have a TV, yeah. I don't let my kids watch TV at home. Like I know they're still going to watch TV when they go to a friend's house.
Right.
You know? And I'm not going to be like, you can't go to that friend's house because they have a TV. And they're like, okay, TV, you can go. Yeah. But yeah, I think, and that's with anything, like let them be exposed to religion, right? And then they come back and have conversations mm-hmm. about their different exposures to religion or different belief systems.
Right.
You know, I mean, you can't shelter them, but I also mm-hmm. think you are an example of the life. Yeah.
I think you have to also, you know, we have to teach our youth critical thinking skills, mm-hmm. right? And not just to follow along mm-hmm. and follow the crowd. And, but yeah, you know, there's a line, you know, and I think we all do it. You know, I have a friend that never saw Dirty Dancing. Mm-hmm. And, you know, when I found that, I was like, what? You've never seen Dirty Dancing? Mm-hmm. And that's just something, right? Like, it's funny, we actually got him to watch it. But, you know, that's just like that, right? Where's the line of pop culture? Like, mm-hmm. he grew up in the outdoors. He grew up, you know, super, super smart, you know, he's total outdoors guy. And, you know, he's never seen that movie. Yeah. So.
And he's fine. And he survived.
And he's fine, right? Yeah.
And maybe he got bullied sometimes, but like.
But he can't quote, nobody puts baby in the corner.
But it's like we can't determine what some kid's gonna get bullied for or not bullied for, you know. And I don't think it's a replacement to be like, let me make sure my kid watches every Disney movie. Like,
watches Cardi B show her tits and ass on.
I can't.
On, TV. Yeah, I agree.
Sorry. This is me getting old. I'm like,
get off my lawn.
Right? Gosh.
These kids
like,
these days.
Cover yourself up. Meanwhile, my running shorts are kind of short, but that's when I'm running. My butt cheek's not hanging out when I go into town, okay?
Right. And you're not like waving it around for everyone either. This was a great talk. I'm glad we connected. We haven't even breathed yet, so we're gonna. So
I think the breath work
we're gonna journal prompt.
Yeah, you do yours, and then I'm gonna cue a breath work right after.
Yeah, and you're gonna end. Yeah. Like it'll just breath work into ending. So journal prompt. Create a music journal today, right? And whatever like your mood is, right? So maybe you want to write about music, right? Maybe you want to pull out your journal, your diary, and you want to write about music. But maybe try this. Maybe pull up your Spotify, and whatever you want to hear right now, just pull it up and listen to it. And listen to their radio, right? Like we've talked a lot about we have this access now, which is really cool, to things like Spotify and Apple Music, and I think there's other platforms, Pandora, where you can just put in an artist and you don't get all of that artist. You get music related to them, and you get to explore other artists. And don't set a goal for like, oh, I have to explore 400 new artists, right? That's not my intent. But seeing that number at the end of the year was really cool. And I'm like, oh, I hope I can beat that this year, right? And it's not, again, right? It's not like I'm not trying to beat it. I'm just trying to listen to new music. So grab your Spotify, like pull up some music that you want to hear, but then dive into some other music and be open-minded to hearing something new. And then, yeah, maybe write about that, and write about the music that you're listening to, and write about some of the memories that come up, and how your music is tied, right? Like, you know, again, we do this show from our points of view, from our life. So while Bre is, you know, trying to disassociate, right? Maybe that's not your thing, and that's cool. So maybe just talk about the association that music has in your life, to feelings, to emotions, to times in your life, to periods in your life. Talk about, you know, write about, you know, the lyrics that you hear. You know, if you're hearing new music, if you know, how music ties to, right? If you come to my yoga class and you hear some crazy music in a yoga class, and you're like, what? You know, just your expectations of music in certain scenarios. But yeah, use your journal to just get your thoughts out about music, and then end with your 5 top musicians and send it to us. So you get all of the music, including any bands that they were in, but pick 5, and yeah, we want to hear from you. And I'll turn it over to.
Well, I'm actually going to just send you with something to do instead of lead you through breath. Okay. But right, cool. Yeah, I talked about disassociation, but I almost want, instead of thinking of it as disassociation with how you feel, I want it to be a disassociation with events and experiences. Right. And so I actually just want you to feel what you feel with the music. So, and that's what I also like, just clarifying, like my association is, it's always going to create a feeling, but can I remove it from this like specific event if it can give me a different feeling? So pick a few songs, or do this like in the next couple days or something, and just take a song, play it like right by it, like either in your headphones or near you, and close your eyes and just listen to it and notice where you feel it in your body. And so I want you to close your eyes, listen, and maybe you put your hand wherever you feel it in your body. And then instead of labeling what that feeling is, I want you to just feel it and see what happens, and see if it changes, and see as the music progresses, or there's a, you know, the kind of, if it climaxes, whatever it might be, just notice how your kind of reaction to it or your experience with it changes or doesn't change. And I just, play a song, close your eyes, and then feel it fully in your body, just as it is, without labels, commentary, or stories. So, homework.
Love it. I love it. Bre, it was a pleasure.
Yes, as always.
We'll chat soon.
Sounds good. See ya.
Bye.
If you want to follow us and our adventures, you can find both of us on Instagram. I'm at Bre Allison. That's BreAllison.
And I am at The Life of Alan Tatone, _ between each word. To check out our offerings, yoga, one-on-one trainings, workshops, retreats, and a recorded library, you can find the info on our website, thehunterandthehippie.com.
If you have questions for the podcast, about the podcast, feedback, suggestions, or just want to say hi or find ways to work with us, our email is thehunterandthehippiepodcast@gmail.com. And don't worry, all of this will be in our show notes.
Thanks for tuning in
Hopefully you weren't tuned out.
to the Hunter and the Hippie podcast.